Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to our first LinkedIn webinar event, where I'll introduce you to two companies that are partnering to bring advanced cloud-based communications to the unified communications arena. Of particular focus today will be how these companies collaborate to provide a bridge for global enterprises to navigate in emerging markets. I'm John Flood. I'm a content writer with ULAP Networks, and I'll be your host and interviewer today for this event. I have the privilege of speaking with the founders and CEOs of ULAP Networks and CallCabinet, two strategic partners that offer complementary products and services for unified communications customers. So please join me in welcoming Ryan Kahan, the founder and CEO of CallCabinet, and Dominic McDonald, the founder and CEO of ULAP Network. So Dominic, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. I'm excited to learn more about your companies and your products and your partnership. After all, this is a winning arrangement for your clients. And I think it's very important for both of you to articulate and describe how the two companies coming together can help broaden the global reach of large enterprises around the world. So this for us has, I think, for our audience has sort of three components. One is the importance for enterprises to develop secure global communications to ensure security and compliance across geographies. The regulatory environment is a pretty complex one. It's unrelenting and it's not going away. Both of you probably know this all too well. So for our audience, I think it would be great to hear how session border controllers as a service and call recording technologies from CallCabinet can ensure security and compliance to make global communications as secure in New York as it is in New Delhi. So that's one of the things I'd like us to cover today. I'd like us to also, as a segue into that, to talk about emerging markets. Clearly, some of the largest growth opportunities in the world are in continents like Africa, the Middle East, Latin America, and Asia Pacific. So this, I think, is of vital importance to companies coming out of the United States and the EU when they want to extend their reach into places like Angola or Zaire. And I know both of you probably have some very interesting insights into what those challenges would be and how you work together to bring that secure environment to these far-flung locations. And lastly, if we have time, the importance of partnership. Sometimes 1 + 1 is more than 2. It is more a power exponentially than just adding 1 and 1. So if you have anything you'd like to share with your approach to working together, maybe what brought you together, and what you see in the benefits of this relationship. Because let's face it, in today's world, we're all alone, but we're also all together. And to the extent that we can help each other forge better alliances and deliver solutions, better value, and hopefully more meaningful relationships, the better we're going to be as a planet, as a global entity. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. But before we dive into these details, I'd like to ask you gentlemen to speak a bit about yourselves and your backgrounds and why you founded your company. So Ryan, let's start with you. If I'm not mistaken, you founded CallCabinet in 2012, correct?
Yeah, it's going on around 11 odd years now.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you have some sort of lightning bolt moment, an aha moment that spurred you to found CallCabinet?
Yeah. Um, Thinking back to those early days, I mean, the aha moment was we realized that companies were moving to the cloud, that telephony was moving to the cloud, um, and that the idea that we and our competitors at the time had of just saying, well, we already do this web-based call recording. That was like the big thing then, using a web interface on a on-prem server. We can just put this on a virtual machine up in the cloud, and hey, it's a cloud-based call recording system. And I quickly realized that was never going to scale. It was never going to be able to support tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of users on a per country or a global basis. So we took the decision, back then, to really move to the cloud, to embrace it, completely. A lot of different challenges back then, things like bandwidth, a lot of negativity towards the cloud, a lot of old school IT managers still thinking the cloud wasn't going to be a thing. We overcame those challenges and really built the solution out of that.
Well, congratulations. Did you bring in trusted members of your development team when you founded the company? Is that how you did that? And how many people were with you when you finally started?
When we initially got up and going, I think there was a total of 5 of us involved in the company. We had an on-premise or legacy based call recording system before that, so some of those people migrated over, and those 5 people are still very much involved with the business today. Typically, I'm happy to say most of our employees stick around for a really long period of time. So, the team's grown to now globally, we're getting close to about 100 employees on a global basis. And we have offices, obviously we're headquartered in Boca Raton, Florida, which is where I am. But we have offices in London, South Africa, well, at least Johannesburg, Sydney, Australia, and then, some branch offices, like, for example, in Germany and a number of other places around the world.
Well, it sounds like you're well positioned globally. And forgive me if I'm a little bit on the back foot here. When you founded the company, how many other solution providers were there that were addressing this market?
None. We were the first to, as far as I'm aware, to contemplate cloud or call recording in the cloud. We were certainly the first to engage with Microsoft. In fact, in the early days, we joined Microsoft, had a what they call the BizSpark program, which was their sort of cloud incubator program, in which we joined, and was very beneficial in helping us develop the first sort of cloud-based architecture. And quite frankly, I don't think that there is another company that is truly in the cloud as we are. Everyone says they're in the cloud, but when you dig deep, it's virtual machines running all over the place. It's not the real true cloud architecture using the latest technologies like Kubernetes, and the like, to provide a true global experience for customers. So I think we were the first then, and we're certainly still the first doing what we're doing in the way that we're doing it.
Excellent. First mover advantage, as they say. Thank you for that. And I'd like to ask Dominic now if he wouldn't mind giving us some background on why ULAP Networks and what was your motivation, Dominic? Dominic, I think your mic is off.
How about that now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Selamat Petang, good evening. This is Dominic from Bandar Seri Begawan. I'm the Chief Executive and founder of ULAP. And obviously the brainwave of ULAP, or the founding of it's a local meaning of the word cloud. And, initially around a dining room table when we started that gives us the opportunity to pretty much sell anything as a service. Obviously cloud, but obviously there was really a desire need to bring to emerging markets cloud technologies that the the developed world had immediate access to, but the emerging markets was not the focus of large SaaS vendors globally and large unified communication vendors. So, with the exception of the outsourcing BPO sector, where the traditional on-prem providers played a very key and major role, cloud telephony and cloud solutions were really left behind. So that's where, ULAP really looked at how do we bring that middleware or that connectivity portion to bring customers to different platforms of choice. So we're really proud. We're now reached country 85 with deployments, with our most recent deployments in Kazakhstan. Never thought when we started at the dining room table that we would have customers from Ivory Coast through to Kazakhstan, through to Papua New Guinea. So it's something really, really remarkable for us. So yeah, John, I think really for us, the real motivation of this partnership from the onset is this is something of extreme value that our customers can really get a benefit from just the basics of having a telephone phone call through to the AI of everything from voice conversations to email and other channels of communication. But once again, as you said earlier, I'm not going to steal Ryan's thunder. Let him talk about his technology. What ULAP enables with CallCabinet is bringing those customers to a world-class technology such as CallCabinet.
Wonderful, wonderful. So actually, you mentioned the dining room table. It reminds me of the sort of legendary Silicon Valley startup stories where the guys, there's a coffee shop restaurant in Woodside, California called Bucks. And there are numerous stories about entrepreneurs and venture capital guys sitting around having a coffee one morning, and they're talking about the next great thing. So that has a kind of a different. I like it because your dining room table is a little more homespun, and it has a good feeling about it. So it sounds like both of you were. Could I say it like this? You've both been rather astonished at the way things have sort of taken off. Ryan, would you agree?
I'd like to say that I always planned it that way, but yeah, it's always good to see it actually come together for sure. Yeah, and especially seeing the growth that we've had internationally, and then the number of customers that we're supporting, always amazes me for sure.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dominic, same for you, huh?
Yeah, look, I think so, but I also think that the strategy was, not to sound derogatory, if it was about bringing the first world technology to emerging markets, right? That was really the vision mission. How do we improve the lives of organizations where manual was there? And I think both of us, and yourself included, I think if we hear the word digital transformation, we're going to go get a gun and shoot ourselves, right? I think it's really at the point now that it's about agility and the first mover advantage that you mentioned, and being agile is really that where we're taking our customers on a journey. What is the most difficult thing? Change. And the back end of this pandemic really taught us that if we don't take on change, we're going to be left behind. We saw in industries such as, retail as an example, non-traditional vendors selling online really smashed away at traditional box retailers. And it wasn't just limited to that. And it also proved that mum at home with a couple of kids could actually grow a home business really rapidly. So that agility had to really go to the enterprise customers where change was slow, and it was really, really slow. So now, what are the opportunities to be agile is what technologies you can bring to the forefront. And our technologies combined really help that efficiency to move forward.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I'd say change is, it's a. I don't think there's one single person in our audience that hasn't been a little bit blown away by not just the pandemic, but then on the heels of that, we're now looking at this, what appears to be the sudden, but actually it's been there for quite a while, the sudden arrival of AI and machine learning. So that's only going to cause the engine to speed even faster. So agility means different things to different people, but it sounds to me like both of your companies share this sort of common foundational position that, as they say, again, perhaps keying off of what you just said in a darker way, there's the quick and then there's the dead. So as we used to say at Intel. So it's definitely a jazz performance more and more, but all great jazz players practice constantly. So let me move on, if I may, to see what other questions I might have for you here. One second here. So let's talk pain points. Let's talk customer challenges. In your respective domains of the markets you serve and the solutions that you provide, solutions imply problems. So Ryan, in 2023, if you could give us, sort of a snapshot, we're sort of heading towards the end of the year now and into 24. What are sort of the top of mind things you're hearing from your customers that have them worried and struggling? And how does CallCabinet address that?
So I think that a big issue is that, you mentioned COVID. COVID's forced our customers' landscapes to change dramatically. They've gone from having an on-prem PBX to where while they may be still be using that to some level, they have employees using all types of different tools, whether it's Teams or Zoom or Ring Central, whatever it happens to be, and normally a mixture of them. It's not, I'm going to call them the old days, but you would go to a customer who would say, I need call recording. They were running a PBX, with 3,000 extensions on premise, and all you had to do was record that one thing. There were no other options. And these days, everyone is using multiple different tools depending on where they are in the organization. It's not unusual for us to find a customer that is using one thing for their contact center, something else for their meetings, and then an on-prem PBX still on the desk. So the challenges that we are seeing from customers are, number one, how do I record all of these different integrations? Because it's not good enough just to have one. And also, how do I future-proof myself? How do I make sure that the system that I'm putting in today for recording, compliance, analytics is going to work if I make the decision in 3 months' time to switch out my phone provider or my phone vendor? The next challenge that they've got is, how do we deal with the location of that stuff? We have data sovereignty issues that we need to address. And we need to make sure that the customers that are recording in the US are stored in the US. The ones recording in the UK are stored in the UK. And we need all of that in a single pane of glass view where we can manage everything centrally, where we can see all of the Teams calls, all of the Zoom calls, in one place, in one location. And then, sort of expanding from that is, now that we've recorded for, be it regulatory purposes or quality assurance purposes, how do we get value out of that data? Now we've got, tens of thousands of hours of data. How do we really leverage that data where it's, adding value to our business, adding value to our bottom line? And that's where the analytics, artificial intelligence, comes into play to start really getting value to those customers.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's quite a broad waterfront to cover. Ryan, the question of future proofing, crucial. Thinking about the future is generally the definition of anxiety. So how do you reduce that anxiety? What do you say to if you're in a key meeting or your sales team is in a key meeting to say, look, we've got you covered here. Nobody can predict the future. Obviously, I'm not asking you to promise us something that is unreasonable. But what kind of assurance can you give to help the team, your customer teams, on this topic?
Well, I think it's all about being agile, and ultimately we have been doing that since day one. We've grown the product and grown the solution. We are supporting more and more platforms. So I would imagine that right now we probably cover 95% of every telephony, type of system on the planet. We're certified across the board with all of the big guys, and ultimately we are going to continue, with that. We want to assure our customers that, hey, if you're changing, we're here to change with you. If you're moving in a certain direction, we're here. If you need to take your data and do other things with it. For example, some of our customers say, hey, I need to push our data into Bloomberg Vault, or I've got third-party integrations into, turrets for financial services recording. We do it all. So it's really, you're making a choice of us as a partner that is pretty much platform agnostic. You bring us whatever you've got, we'll record it for you, we'll store it for you, and we'll make sure that, more importantly, that you're compliant and that you're getting value for that data that you're storing.
So yeah, that was one of my questions. Thank you for introducing the idea of agnosticism. And I think it's an excellent position to be in. And if you're only 5% away from covering that, there's always going to be some delta, right, between what is known and unknown in terms of the future. But it sounds to me like you really do you've established very close working relationships with across a broad spectrum of the industries, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We support so many different industries. People just say to us, like, what industry do you specialize in? And, obviously the ones that come to mind, the top of my head, would be financial services and, medical or healthcare. But we have so many customers that it really covers every area, of the business, and every type of business that's out there.
Could you maybe help me with a question here? Speaking of geographies and healthcare and financial regulation and so on, how do you and companies like yours stay abreast of the latest regulatory changes? I mean, it seems that the news is regularly reporting on another EU requirement, or HIPAA in the United States, and so on. Do you have any insights as to how to kind of keep your fingers on the pulse, or is that something your customers bring to you that they're involved with?
No, we actually have an internal team that deals with it, as well as external consultants that we work with, on a monthly basis, to keep abreast of all of that. So, typically, there's always stuff coming out. Every region has their own compliance requirements. Some regions are more compliant focused than others. The UK and South Africa, as an example, are far more regulated than, say, the US is. But all of that's, like you mentioned, all of that's changing on a weekly basis. So that's our job, right? Making, at the end of the day, we're a compliance company. We're here to make sure that our customers meet those challenges and actually don't have to worry about them. We'll take care of them, and we'll make sure that they're there. And, that whole compliance security thing is really important to us. We're ISO 27001, security certified. So we've gone through those processes. We've looked at our internal processes, how we deal with the stuff, how we deal with data, and we continue to do that on a weekly basis. It's interesting, the challenges we were talking about 11 years ago, were convincing people they should be in the cloud. Challenges today are, in most cases, getting past the security divisions at our respective customers, because in the old days they would say, what is your security? And we'd say, we're in Azure, and they'd say, okay, no, that's fine. And now you get a 40-page document that needs to be completed, and often that's a big delay in the sales process. So it was very important for us to have those ducks in a row.
Well, let me get Dominic in the conversation here. Dominic, do you have anything to add to that from the ULAP point of view? Security, compliance, trying to establish, as I would say, ULAP Networks is a rare bridge to emerging markets. What kinds of things do you see in terms of challenges out there as you navigate the globe?
Look, I think the first thing was you touched on a very important topic. What was the magic ball and what does the future look like? And the future that we're now emerging to see is cost savings. So essentially what customers are looking for is, how do I get Rolls-Royce on a beer budget, champagne on a beer budget is the old expression, but at the same token, they want the Rolls-Royce quality at the same token, right? So that quality has to be sustained. The other thing too is, because of the emergence of cloud SaaS, everyone expects that flexibility regardless of the solution or product that's being served. So in a very challenging environment like an emerging market with high regulation, it doesn't really have the flexibility built in by design, because it's like a department telco of the 1970s of reminiscent of North America, right? So what we're seeing is customers want to see a cost saving. And one of the great things about the ULAP CallCabinet relationship is ULAP helps customers save between 20 to 40% on their current telephony costs as a whole. And secondly, more important, that cost savings can really lead to additional investments, such as the analytics solutions from CallCabinet. So it's not about just banking them. How do I invest more to get a total customer journey? And I think that's the next one of the opportunities is, how do we see the customer journey from beginning to end? And tools like CallCabinet allows customers to see that customer journey. We have the voice and we have some of the data portion, and CallCabinet really brings that information, that metadata, and really being able to produce that. But what we're seeing in emerging markets is everyone goes to the US website, good old Amazon, and say, what's the lowest price out there? And I expect that price in every jurisdiction from, A to Z. And they've all got those dynamic channel challenges in between. And that's what we're really seeing. So that sensitivities is real, and those sensitivities are not necessarily domestic corporations. These are multinational corporations headquartered out of North America, Europe, Australia, where they go, hey, we need to make sure that we get those cost savings moving forward.
Well, it sounds like, Dominic, you've had a lot of how should I say, time in the trenches, and you've seen it from from the, so to speak, the foot soldier's view, as well as 100,000 feet. So that's awesome. I think that for companies based out of North America, I think, I'm just guessing here, I'm sure it could be a bit how should I say, perplexing to consider how to set something up in Beirut, right, or on the island of Malta. So, but if I can just sort of transition to what you touched upon with the analytics and AI. Back to you, Ryan. There's AI is in every news outlet every day, but specific to this industry, what can you tell us about CallCabinet's, what I think I would consider one of your key unique selling opportunities here, your propositions, uniqueness as a company? Can you share with our audience what you bring to the table that really shines in terms of putting customers at ease and giving them that chance to mine that data into useful information? Let me add one more thing here. It's a little bit of a long question, but I don't want to leave this conversation today unless we bring up the critical topic of agent burnout, that churn rate in the call center. So I have a couple of questions here, and forgive me if I've been a little long-winded.
No. I think it's important to understand where this came from, right? So we've been doing this a long time. I've been in the call recording industry close to 30 years now, 20, I don't know. Feels like a long time. When I started, we were putting tapes into big servers. When they started beeping every 30 minutes, we'd take the tape out and put a new one in. So certainly come a long way. But if you go and look back to 3 years ago, 4 years ago, there would be, we would do quality assurance on call recordings. So what did quality assurance mean? Basically, our software, and still does, takes a certain percentage of calls, assigns those calls to a supervisor to review, and then gives them the ability to go and listen to the calls and click, and score the agent, right? So that then changed with bringing in what we call basic analytics. And basic analytics says, okay, well, instead of listening to a small percentage of calls, let's listen to 100% of calls, and let's understand what's actually going on in those calls, and then we have that data. Where AI has helped us tremendously is now taking that data and actually scoring it, understanding whether a call is negative or positive, and actually being able to score a call, 100% of calls from the beginning. So we can start understanding things at scale, like which agents are performing better than others, which agents' close rates are better than others, and actually using the AI tools to consolidate information about a call, to summarize a call, to score the call, to pass that information back to agents, back to supervisors, back to the business, to understand where the training opportunities are. And we can do that on a per call basis. And we can pop up at the end of a call to an agent and say, hey, this is a summary of the call. This is what you did well. This is what you did poorly. This is how we rated you on the call. And then very importantly, the ability to close the loop on that stuff. So to allow the agent to say, I disagree, because AI is good, it's not perfect. So there may be instances where the summary is not 100% correct, that we can actually start using the feedback from the agents to actually evaluate that small number of calls manually and push that all back into the same system. So it's really bringing everything together. It's using that data to understand what the customers are feeling. Simple things like a company may decide that they're making a change, right? So Delta Airlines announced yesterday that they're changing their Sky Miles program, all right? Okay. How has that impacted the calls that are coming in? How many people are frustrated? How many people aren't? And how does that level of frustration maybe compare to a previous change that was made? So the fact that you had 1,000 people phoning and complaining, is that good or bad? Last time we made a change, we had 10,000 people. So this change is obviously better because there's less people, complaining about whatever it is. So it's really about getting intelligence to that data. And more importantly, it's about getting immediate intelligence. Listening to 1% of an agent's calls, which may relate to one call every 3 days like we used to do, certainly doesn't give a good enough overview of how that agent's performing. And also, in order to get a real data set, you'd have to look at a month or two's worth of data. By that stage, you mentioned agent burnout. The agent's already burnt out and probably not working for the company anymore. So picking up those little nuances and those little changes in that specific agent, or how that information is being looked at, is critically important. And we're implementing more and more AI tools as the days go on. In fact, we took the decision a couple of years ago to create an analytics and AI division within the company. So it's not like just a little add-on that's in the product. It's almost its own product, with its own dev teams, within CallCabinet.
Well, you mentioned Delta Airlines, perfect example. I think our audience would love to hear another kind of what I call a customer story from your standpoint. You don't have to name them. How you and your team were able to positively affect change within that agent scoring, keeping customer retention. I mean, there's two sides to this thing, which add up to a potential very destructive to the bottom line kind of scenario. If your agent's burned out and they're quitting, 40%, I heard once recently, that's the churn rate. And then you get all these upset customers who are glad to easily say, well, I can go down the street and find another company to work with on my question. So it's a big hit to the bottom line. Can you share like one briefly, because I see we're 35 minutes into into the interview here. Something like that for our audience.
Yeah, so I think, look, every customer has a different business use case, and that's why it's so important to listen to them and what their challenges are. We've had customers that come to us and say, we're extremely concerned about compliance. We live in an environment where we need to tell our customers the calls are being recorded. So on inbound calls, that's done by our phone system. It says, hey, welcome to wherever this call is being recorded. But on outbound calls, we need to tell the customer that the call is being recorded. How do we know that? How do we solve for that challenge? Where now through AI, through analytics, we can say to them, here's a list of calls where they did not meet compliance. These are the agents that are giving you problems. Go and train them, go and deal with that specific, set of data or requirements. You've had other things, when it comes to analytics, it's not about just taking words, right? Because words have no context. And that was the big change for us, the shift from just pure analytics to actual AI and intelligence. So let me give you an example. In the case where you have a phone call and I phone into company A and say, hey, I hate you guys. You messed up my life. You cost me money. Like, you are the worst company in the world. And at the end of the day, John, who's the agent I'm speaking to, I'm having a great rapport with. I'm saying, John, thank you so much. You were fantastic. Thank you so much. I apologize. I was in a bad place, and you've made my day. Right? That's a great call. It happens that if you turn the words around, it's the same words, but a very different call. So if I phone you, say, hey, John, how you doing? I'm having a fantastic day. And at the end of the call, I'm saying to you, John, you suck. You guys ruined my life. That's a very negative call. And probably if you compare the words that are said in that call, it's the same thing, right? So it's very important to understand context. And we've helped a lot of customers with that. One of the things that we found with the analytics space is everyone does that. They say, here's a bunch of data. And, if you want, go and buy yourself a Power BI, subscription and sort of play with your data. But it's far more complex than that, and it requires far more, skills, which is why, we do it as a consultative basis. So, we have two analytics products, a standard and an advanced. The standard is sort of an out-of-the-box product. Most of our customers are using the advanced solution, which really we assign a data scientist to the customer, and we work on those ever-changing goalposts with them on a monthly basis. So, exactly what you're saying. How do you help? It's like, what are your challenges this month? And how can we help you understand your customers better, understand your churn rate better, understand your burnout better? And that's just something that we do every day.
Well, that's fantastic. I can see that we have the seeds of an entirely different interview here. I'm going to have to kind of stop you there because it's very powerful, Ryan, and I hope our audience has benefited from it as well. I'm going to go back over to Dom for a minute here, and Dom, I mean, as I said, you've been out there on the battlefield for a while. You know what it's like in emerging markets. Can you help share with us some stories or how you approach bridging these advanced global enterprises with locations in emerging markets? I have to say one thing here, by the way, if you don't mind my shining a light here on you, but congratulations on your recognition as a Collaborator of the Year with UC Today. And in fact, maybe you could talk a little bit about how you view collaboration and helping companies, manage in these emerging markets. Sorry for the long-winded question.
No, thank you. I mean, it was awfully wonderful to be nominated by industry peers for Collaboration Leader of the Year. It wasn't ULAP employees; it was people from the industry itself. So it was a wonderful, wonderful pleasure. And I think one of the keys to our success is understanding the outcome. And the outcome is the same outcome that's being derived in those mature markets. And being able to deliver that and navigate the treacherous, minefield that there is to really make this work. Also, too, it's about how do you get key partners or key organizations or service providers and telcos to cooperate because you'd be perceived as eroding their revenue. So that was a really difficult, tough one for us to follow. But I think one of the things, and this is a study that just recently came out of my native Australia, um, over 90% of Gen Z are now not speaking on a phone at all. They don't even want to answer a telephone call. So that's already now putting the future of where are things going to. And I think the changes in the ITU technical working group about non-geographical, geographical numbers and these types of things is really diversing the conversation to a non-voice interaction. So what do I mean by that? I mean, people want to take a screenshot of an interaction of a promise. So when that promise is not delivered, they go, "Hey, you promised me that, and why haven't you delivered on that promise?" That's what we're seeing out of emerging markets. People are very much moving towards that type of holding people to account. I think, though, one of the wonderful things with AI and advanced technologies that are now coming out is the practical use of automation. So something that we're really seeing right now is how do we help organizations automate processes to save time and to be agile? So that automation piece is the thing, John, that really helps customers. And the tools from 20 years ago to today are drastically different. So yes, there's the wonderful, promise of AI, of where everything is going to be super intelligent, but the really significant quick win is the ability for AI to apply to automation. That's what we're seeing as the really quick win, and that's where emerging markets really validate that. Even enterprise customers that have delivery over the globe is how do we use this for quick wins with automation and really save.
Well, if I could stop you there, the term automation means different things to different people. Could you define that as it relates to your previous statements? What do you mean
Yes,
by automation?
I'd like to bring that into like a call cabinet, scenario, right? So a conversation occurs, emotion detection, where
Okay.
customers get angry and upset, analyzing that with automation, meaning, hey, here's a flag or an alarm to say, hey, this is happening in your business right now. You need to go and review what's going on, right?
Mhm.
That
Okay.
was possible without having manual supervisors listening to live calls or monitoring and the like. Whereas the tools are now mature that emotion can be detected, right? So, or it could be converting things to transcript where you have automation looking for keywords or sentences that would then trigger into different functions. It could
Okay.
be payment promises, as an example.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just to interrupt there, I mean, we see things like, we record prisons and other types of industries where the keywords, or detected, possible threats, are, can be evaluated, and then that data automated to be pushed to the customer or to, where they are. So when I mean where they are is they may be using Slack, they may be using Teams, they may want a text message, they may want an email, and supporting all of those is really important as well. So that just leads to the automation is, taking that data when it happens and immediately notifying the people that need to know where they are, and the tools that they are already comfortable in actually using.
Okay.
So John,
Great.
just really to come to the wrap up of that, I think really one thing to add to that, I mean that prison scenario is a wonderful example of how intelligent automation solves a drastic problem. And by the way, hey, we've given you a cost saving to get there as well, right? This was unheard of 20, 30 years ago, back in the day. This was stuff of, science fiction, and now here it is on a
I
platter
think
that
20, 30 weeks ago as well, Dominic.
yeah, sure, absolutely, right. I mean, yeah, I think that's great, and I think where we're also heading is how does this all evolve into the next step, and it's how you interact, and I think the one that needs a lot of work, what we're seeing, is the B2B, B2C is really fantastic and it's done really well, but the business to business interactions where it's more sophisticated is where I feel that that's where it's going to take things to the next level. So you are seeing a lot of advances, and you've got the usual suspects like your Salesforces and the like, really pushing the edge there about how do we get that. But then you see these upcoming players just coming with some really slick stuff, with wonderful APIs that connect to different systems, and you don't need everything to be in one system anymore, right? So these things are really dynamic, but the B2B is, probably more underserved than the B2C.
Okay, interesting. Well, Dominic, if I could, you're mentioning cost savings, and the history of technology is fundamentally defined in several ways, and one of that is the commodifyingization. Excuse my English mangle there, of technology. So it starts at one level, and as the market expands, it continues to drop, right? Do you see that either of you? Do you see that as fundamental in your solutions?
Look, I think, yeah, from our point of view, from our 30,000-foot view, customers want to spend less now. There is significant budgetary pressures,
I see.
and they really want to bring their spend down. So how do we respond to that, right? Like, what are some of the playbooks that we use to really assist customers? So depending on the use case, we may implement for customers 30-day contracts where they're able to scale up and scale down anytime during the contract period. That flexibility then allows customers to have great comfort that, hey, we can cancel you at any time. So you're only as good as your last outage. But at the same token, you've given them the flexibility to stay with you because you are flexible, right? If they go to their incumbent service provider, it's a 24-month contract, right? So that first flexibility is a key thing. But it really comes down to about how do you get more for less? And I think, that common theme. And it's really about where people are now going, oh, hang on a moment. And this is a great challenge right now. So we had this thing called the pandemic come, and then we had all of this ability for, the great demand of video conferencing because we couldn't travel and everywhere. And no one would believe on September 14 of 2023, one of the forefront leaders in quality was Blue Jeans, is now bye-bye, right? This is just so drastic. So, our friends over at Metrigy really made a statement in the last, 24 to 48 hours. Irwin came out and said, hey, it's proven that a video-only solution cannot survive. And I think that's a really, really great message here. So why is that a great message? Because we're bringing CallCabinet and ULAP together because we're bringing these pieces of the puzzle together, not being a standalone solution in the back corner. And I think that's one of the things. And one of the things is also this rationalization, if I can wrap up, is that rationalization is people have got multiple tools. So it makes it really difficult to say, hey, I've got this product here and I've got this product. This product does everything I need and I had it beforehand. This sold me a promise and this product is now caught up. I need to retire services to reduce spend. We're seeing that right now. So there's a lot of consolidation happening. There's churn between different solutions, but that consolidation is really happening and it's quite real. So that's what I see and the team. And, our head of alliances, as Rod said, just to really hammer it home, if you're not talking cost savings, you're talking into the wind. And, I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So you tie it to a number of factors, and that is the current economic conditions are also driving a lot of purchase decisions and so on.
I don't think it's about current economic conditions so much. I think it's more about what is the value to company shareholders and value and things of that nature. It's not just linked to, hey, things were a bit rough, because I think we're seeing conditions improve dramatically. We've seen the strengthening of the US dollar internationally, right? That strengthening demonstrates more than, an economy that may be perceived as weaker than what it was.
Right.
So we're seeing signs that, you go to some emerging markets right now, what downturn are you talking about? Everyone's out eating and drinking, right? So I think that's not really it. With travel has now returned to levels that were greater to pre-pandemic, right? So you look at those things and go, actually, no, that's not the messaging. The messaging is there are pressures on budgets. There are pressures to get value about what people get, and the pandemic escalated the cloud and SaaS and the consumption model. So customers are now going, I don't need all of this on a 12-month contract. Let's only consume what we need.
Interesting. And Ryan, would you like to add anything from the call cabinet perspective on what Dominic just mentioned, particularly with folks? Yeah, the emerging markets
I agree with him. Look, emerging markets is something we understand, very well. You cannot treat them in the same way that you would, someone sitting in New York or in London, or Sydney. But certainly it's a big part of our portfolio, and we deal with we have a very similar type of customer base, and I think that's what makes the collaboration between, or partnership between, ULAP and CallCabinet so exciting.
Okay. Well, in the interest of time, because I think we've run over, my apologies to our audience for this. We can go a couple of different ways here. I wanted to leave some time for our audience to ask questions, to add any comments, or we'd love to hear from you. So my background studio team, do you have anything coming in? You want to close? Okay. So thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. And I certainly learned a lot, and I hope our audience did too. I'm John Flood, content writer with ULAP Networks. Thank you, Ryan Kahan of CallCabinet and Dominic McDonald of ULAP. Hope to see you both again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Cheers. Bye.